Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Today I'm here with Assemblyman Gary Pretlow, Democrat representing Mount Vernon and Yonkers, and we're here to talk about on the first day of February what will occupy the attention of state legislators, and for that matter, those of us in county government over the next 60 days or so. That is the discussion, the deliberation, and the ultimate adoption of the New York State budget for 2024-2025. Assemblyman Pretlow, who will speak in a few minutes, is the Dean of the Assembly Delegation. And of course, in New York State government, you have a two-house form of government with a state assembly and a state senate. The budget, when it's approved, has to go through both of those houses. And those of us in county government, those of us just who live in Westchester County, rely on the people that we send to the state assembly and the people that we send to the state senate to have influence on the issues that affect us, not just as a county government, but as people who live in this particular county. And the diversity of this county, because it does include urban areas like Mount Vernon and Yonkers, which the Assemblyman represents, and then also traditional suburban communities, the Scarsdales and Larchmonts and Bronxvilles of the world, and even a little bit of the northern part of the county, which looks a lot like the rest of the Hudson Valley in terms of rural, all have different needs. And all of those needs, from Buffalo to Montauk, are at the table in a state budget. The Assemblyman will lay out some of the programs and the structure of the state budget, but it is a very, very complicated document. I had the privilege of being a colleague in the State Assembly with Assemblyman Pretlow and then also serving in the State Senate, and it's a much different process than what you see here in the county government. We usually are able to, as an executive branch, deliver the budget in White Plains here to the county legislature on or about November 10th, and they usually can deliberate within a month and make changes and amendments. And because of the size and scope of our government, the fact that I was a county legislator previously, we negotiate out the differences very directly, and we close the budget. And of course, every government wants to have an on-time budget. We're able to do that because of the size and scope of our government. The Assemblyman served previously as a member of the Mount Vernon City Council. He served as president of the Mount Vernon City Council. And the city of Mount Vernon, as large as it is and as complicated a budget as it is, also is able to close in an on-time fashion. State budget is a little bit different because of its complications. But the most important thing to understand is that those of us who serve in county government have great respect for the members of the State Assembly and the members of the State Senate who represent Westchester. Alongside Assemblyman Pretlow, who has served in this capacity since his first election in 1992 to the State Assembly. We benefit from the service of Assemblywoman Amy Paulin, who represents Scarsdale and a number of communities in the south central portion of the county. Assemblyman Steve Otis, who represents the Sound Shore communities. We have new Assemblywoman Mary Jane Shimsky, who represents a portion of the river towns. Assemblyman Nader Sage, who represents the bulk of the city of Yonkers. Assemblywoman Dana Levenberg, also in her first term, and she represents the northwest corner and the Hudson Valley. Assemblyman Chris Burdick, who represents the northeastern part of the county going all the way down into White Plains. And Assemblyman Matt Slater represents a portion of northern Westchester that also goes into Putnam, and I think perhaps a little bit of Dutchess, I'm not sure. But altogether, there are 7 full assembly districts in Westchester County and 1 that we share with Putnam County. And just on the other side of the ledger, we have 3 state senators. Andre Stewart Cousins, who is head of the New York State Senate, is Senate Majority Leader. Shelley Mayer is state senator for the eastern side of the county. Peter Harcum is senator for the northern portion of Westchester County. And we share with the Bronx Jamal Bailey and Natalia Fernandez, both of whom have a bulk of their districts in the Bronx. But in the case of Senator Bailey, all of the city of Mount Vernon. In the case of Senator Fernandez, all of the town of Pelham and a portion of the city of New Rochelle. So altogether, those 13 individuals go to Albany, and they go through the process for the next 60 days. I don't envy them. I had that pleasure of doing that for 13 years of my life, and now I'm very happy that they're capably doing that responsibility. So let me invite Assemblyman Gary Pretlow to talk a little bit about the process and whatever he chooses to chat on, and then we'll wrap it up after that point. Mr. Assemblyman, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the budget. I'm not going to really get into the minutia or the numbers. We're dealing with a $233 billion document, and we have until April 1st to come to some agreement with it. The Constitution mandates that the governor give the legislature a balanced budget. And what we then do is go through it. We have hearings on every segment of the budget. We have 14 public hearings that are taking place now. I chaired the economic development public hearing this past Tuesday. And education, public hearing is going on as we speak, and that'll probably go from 9:30 this morning until the wee hours of the morning, because education is something that's near and dear to everyone's heart. The document that we have has some good, has some bad, and has some ugly. Just briefly, what is the good? There are no tax increases in this budget. We trying to keep taxes low. The bad is cut to Medicaid. The governor is proposing a cut to Medicaid, which in one respect helps the county because the county's share is also reduced, but we have a lot of individuals that are in dire need of services through Medicaid, and that won't happen now. And then we have the ugly. In my estimation, the ugly is the inadequate increase in the funding that we give to our public schools. I think that it is an increase of $850 million, but that's about what we got just from sports betting. And all the money that comes from sports betting is supposed to go to education, and that's it. But all the lottery money is also supposed to go to education, and that's a few $1 billion, which is finding its way to the general fund. Now, I do know that, to the governor's credit, she had to find a fix for a $4.5 billion revenue shortage that we're experiencing this year. So some of that money came from the gaming money, some of the money came or is coming from the general, the rainy day fund. So let me just give you some ideas how this works. As I stated earlier, the governor gives us a balanced budget, and we try to massage it. Because of a court ruling several years ago, Pataki v. Silver is what it's commonly known as, the legislature does not have the authority to add 1 penny to the budget given to us by the governor. We can cut, we can't add, and we can't change any language in the budget. Prior to that ruling, many of you remember what I call the good old days. You may call it the bad old days, when we had late budgets. We had budgets that went as far as August, late. But the reason those budgets were late is because the legislature refused to approve the submitted budget that the governor gave us, and we fought to get more money for education, more money for aid to localities, more money for every segment of the budget. We can't do that anymore. So what we do now is, number one, we have to find extra revenue somewhere. The governor gave, like I said, a balanced budget. We have to find revenue, and then we have what's called tables where the various committees sit together and meet and try to, divvy up the monies that we find, if we can find any monies. Last week, we held we meaning the delegation, the Assembly delegation, held a hearing which we invited really all of the not-for-profits in Westchester County. We had 43 speakers that all gave us what they would like to see increased in the budget, and we took that all to heart, and that's what the delegation will be working on to try to get more monies for that. I want to see more money going to our special needs schools, 4201, 4203 schools, the teachers that really love the young people that they serve are not adequately paid, and we want to try to increase the revenues or the pay that they get. It's not fair that a teacher, highly trained teacher dealing with difficult children, is paid as paltry as they are. So we want to kind of move that up. Process, like I said, we can't make any changes, so we have to really beg the governor for things. Okay, I hate to use that term, but that's basically what we're doing. And she has been receptive. But like I said earlier, she has a $4 billion hole to fill in the budget, and it has been done. We're going to, after our public hearings, the 14 hearings that I mentioned earlier, we then sit down. We have what are called tables, and we try to try to fix the budget. If we don't have a budget by April 1st, or actually we don't have a budget by March 31st, we get what's called an extender. And previously, we had a governor that if we didn't do what that particular governor wanted, he promised to give us a 52-week extender that included everything we didn't want. So that's why you had on-time budgets for several years. Currently, we have a little bit of leeway. We have our last 3 budgets were maybe 2 days, 3 days late, but they were basically on time. I have a lot of numbers in front of me. I don't want to read them all off, but one of the things that I'm happy that we're doing is making sure that there are mental health individuals in every public school, because with this social media, we're finding that a lot of our young people are now suffering mental health issues because of social media, believe it or not. As we speak right now, there are hearings going on in Washington, D.C., where they're grilling the heads of these social media companies because of the type of information that's going out, and it's really affecting our young people. Mr. County Executive, do you have any questions for me? I'd really like to listen to questions rather than just ramble on all of this. But we're working for the county, the delegation, all 7 of the Assembly people and the 4 senators are all in concert with one another, and we're just going to do the best we can for our county.
Gary,
okay.
Thanks very much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
From the standpoint of county government, we have, through our Office of Intergovernmental Services, Steve Bass, who heads that office, and he and his team work directly with the state delegation on very specific issues that might be in the budget, a particular budget line, and so forth. And the members of the Board of Legislators in the studio today were joined by Legislator Jewel Williams-Johnson, who is head of our Committee on Budget and Appropriations. She just successfully completed the county budget process, which goes through the holiday season into the new year, and Nancy Barr, the immediate past vice chair of the board. And they have working on a legislative package that includes legislative proposals, but have a budgetary impact, which they share with the delegation. And some of those things may get done in the budget, some of those things may get done as standalone legislation. One thing that's important to note, many times public policy issues at the state level are decided in the budget, because when the budget is adapted, it's not just a tabular budget that shows income and expenditures as a county or a city budget would. It's a policy document as well as a fiscal document. And that means that those paragraphs of language that the Assemblyman talked about implement policies that could also be implemented were they standalone pieces of legislation. But because they're included in the budget, they have the same force during the year tenure of the budget, and many times get reauthorized year after year as additional budgets are adopted. So it becomes a much more complicated process in Albany than it is at City Hall or at the county office building to adopt a budget if policy is embedded with fiscal policy, and those two things sort of go hand in hand. But for any concerns that people have about how long it may take the legislature to act if it winds up being a few days late, keep in mind that the federal government has not passed a budget in its entirety any time in the recent decades. They have continuing resolutions to just keep the government going. That's the version of what you talked about in those periods where you're negotiating the budget over the summer. If it comes late, I experienced one of those. And by the way, legislators don't get paid during that period of time, which is not a lot of fun. You do get your pay when the budget is closed on, but try not having any income for 4 months and having a mortgage payment. It's not a pleasant moment. And you're holding out for a matter of principle. You're not holding out to be difficult because there's something that's important that you want the governor to concede on. But now that, Gary, I'm on the other side of that equation as an executive, I think you ought to give in to the executive more. Only kidding.
You can beat me up. It's okay.
Only kidding. But I would just say, for those who are watching as we close off this situation, the most important thing that you can do is reach out to your local assembly member and your local senator. This, in the month of February, is the critical month. While the budget negotiations go on all the way up to April 1st and maybe slightly after that, by the time we reach the 1st of March, much of these policy issues are locked in. And assembly members give input to the speaker, and senators give input into the majority leader, generally early into February and sometimes late into February, but not much later than that. So this is the time to reach out to your state assemblyman, to your state senator. You can go online. You can find www.assembly.state.nys or whatever the current website number is. It's something different. And the same NY Senate .gov, and you can look and find your senator and your assembly member. You can reach out to them. And as Gary mentioned, members of the state legislature are out in their offices when they're back in the district. They're out in the community. As with county legislators, myself as well, we're accessible. We're not hard to find. And you can reach out and have that dialogue. Many times, it is organized groups of people. If you're a teacher, it's a teachers' union. If you're active in the child care field, it's a child care association that interacts with state legislators to give information about an overall industry. So depending on what your area of interest is, link up with other people who share that interest, because that voice is amplified when they reach out to the state legislators, because it is an unbelievable budget. $233 billion, with all of the complications of it, makes it very difficult for any individual member to have a grasp of all of those things. And so people sort of work in concert with areas of specialty. Gary, who heads up the Gaming and Wagering Committee for many years in the Assembly, really has developed an expertise in that particular area. And then somebody else, Amy Poland, has an expertise in health, and everybody has got their own area that comes together when they meet and compare notes. But I want to thank the Assemblyman for being available today.
My pleasure.
And we encourage you to reach out. We, as a government, will also do the same. But the most important thing is that we work together. Those of us in county government, the county legislators, myself as county executive, the town, city supervisors, and mayors, that we try to work together in that the average person in the public cares about the end result. They don't really care about the processes of government. They don't care about who has what power to do what. They see a need, they want to see it met, and we try to work together as best as we can to meet that need. I'm George Latimer, County Executive. Thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll work together and come to closure soon. We look forward to having a representative from the State Senate join us as well. Gary, thank you for your leadership.
My pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Have a good day.